In 2018, an old man sat in a small interrogation room in Texas. He was 78 years old, frail, and barely able to walk. But what he told the FBI agents that day changed everything they thought they knew about serial killers in America. He looked at the detective across the table, smiled, and said, "I killed 93 people, and nobody ever caught me." The FBI didn't believe him at first, but when they started investigating, they realized he was telling the truth. Every single word. This is the story of Samuel Little, the deadliest serial killer in American history. Welcome to Cryptic Files. Samuel Little was born on June 7, 1940, in Reynolds, Georgia. From the very beginning, his life was surrounded by darkness. His mother was a teenager who didn't want him. She gave him away to his grandmother in Lorain, Ohio. Growing up, Samuel was different from other kids. He was aggressive, violent, and constantly in trouble. By the age of 16, he had already been arrested for the first time for breaking into a building. But that was just the beginning. Throughout the 1960s and 70s, Samuel Little drifted across America. He moved from state to state, city to city, never staying in one place too long. He worked odd jobs, slept in shelters, and lived on the streets. But behind that homeless drifter image was something far more terrifying. Samuel Little was hunting. He targeted women that society had forgotten about, women living on the margins, women struggling with addiction, women that nobody would look for if they suddenly disappeared. And that was his greatest weapon. Not a gun, not a knife, but invisibility. He chose victims that the world didn't care about, and because of that, he got away with murder for over 35 years. What made Samuel Little almost impossible to catch was his method of killing. Unlike most serial killers, he didn't use weapons. No gun, no knife, no poison. Samuel Little killed with his bare hands. He strangled his victims. And here's the terrifying part. Strangulation often leaves very little evidence. No bullet to trace, no blade to find, no toxicology report to flag. Many of his victims were found dead, and medical examiners simply ruled their deaths as drug overdoses, accidents, or undetermined causes. Nobody suspected murder, and Samuel Little knew this. He once told investigators, "I could tell you where every body is, because I remember every single face." He didn't just kill these women, he remembered them. Every face, every city, every year. For decades, police departments across America had unsolved cases, missing women, unidentified bodies, and they had no idea that one man was responsible for all of them. Samuel Little was a ghost, moving through America, killing and vanishing into the shadows. Between 1970 and 2005, he killed across 19 states: California, Texas, Ohio, Florida, Tennessee, Mississippi, Louisiana, Georgia. He never stayed long enough to become a suspect, and even when he was arrested, it was never for murder. Here's what makes this case even more disturbing. Samuel Little was arrested over 100 times throughout his life. 100 times! For assault, for theft, for drug possession, for attacking women. In 1982, he was even arrested in Mississippi for the murder of a 22-year-old woman named Melinda Laprie, but the charges were dropped due to lack of evidence. In 1984, he was arrested again in San Diego for the kidnapping and beating of 2 women. Both women survived. He served only 2.5 years in prison. In 2012, he was finally arrested in a homeless shelter in Kentucky, but not for murder, for a drug charge. The police ran his DNA through the national database, and something extraordinary happened. His DNA matched evidence from 3 unsolved murders in Los Angeles. 3 women, killed between 1987 and 1989, all strangled. All cases that had gone cold for over 25 years. Finally, after decades of killing, Samuel Little was caught. But the story was far from over. In 2018, Texas Ranger James Holland was assigned to interview Samuel Little. Holland had a different approach from other investigators. He didn't pressure Little. He didn't threaten him. He didn't accuse him. Instead, he sat down with him and simply listened. And Samuel Little started talking. He confessed to his first murder, then his second, then his third. Day after day, session after session, the number kept climbing. 10 murders, 20 murders, 30 murders, 50 murders. The FBI agents watching the interviews thought he was lying. No one kills 50 people and gets away with it. But then, Little started providing details, specific details that only the killer would know. He described what his victims were wearing. He described the exact locations where he left the bodies. He described the cars he was driving at the time. And then, he did something nobody expected. He started drawing. Samuel Little drew portraits of his victims from memory. Detailed, accurate, haunting portraits. Women he had killed 30, 40 years ago. And when the FBI compared these drawings to missing persons cases across America, they matched. One by one, the faces matched real missing women. The FBI officially confirmed that Samuel Little had confessed to 93 murders, and they verified at least 60 of them, making him the deadliest serial killer in American history. Not Ted Bundy, not Jeffrey Dahmer, not John Wayne Gacy, Samuel Little, a man that most people had never even heard of. The question that haunts every investigator who worked on this case is simple. How? How did one man kill 93 people over 35 years across 19 states and never get caught? The answer is devastating. First, his victims were invisible. They were women living on the margins of society. Many were sex workers. Many struggled with addiction. When they disappeared, nobody filed a missing persons report. When they were found dead, their deaths were dismissed as overdoses or accidents. Second, the system failed. In the 1970s, 80s, and 90s, there was no national database connecting murders across state lines. Each police department worked alone. A murder in California had no connection to a murder in Florida, even if the method was identical. Samuel Little exploited this gap perfectly. Third, and perhaps most disturbing, nobody was looking for a serial killer. The idea that one man could travel across America killing women for decades seemed impossible. And so, nobody looked. And Samuel Little kept killing. Samuel Little died on December 30th, 2020, at the age of 80, in a California hospital. He was serving 3 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. But even after his death, the FBI is still working to identify his victims. As of today, over 30 of his confessed murders remain unmatched. 30 women whose names we still don't know. 30 families who still don't know what happened to their loved ones. The FBI has released Samuel Little's drawings to the public, hoping that someone, somewhere, will recognize a face. If you have any information about these cases, contact the FBI's Violent Criminal Apprehension Program. Samuel Little wasn't the smartest serial killer. He wasn't the most organized. He succeeded because the system failed, because society looked away, because his victims were treated as if they didn't matter. And that is the darkest truth of all. This has been a Cryptic Files investigation. If this case disturbed you as much as it disturbed us, subscribe and turn on notifications. We're opening another file, and trust me, it's even darker than this one.